Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, and yourself?
I am fantastic. I am so appreciative of you being able to come on here today and spend a little time with me.
Oh, I'm super glad that you asked me to be here. Love everything you're doing. I want to say congratulations to you.
Oh,
Saw your
thank you.
award. Was that at SVSU, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
So, congrats to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Appreciate it. Yeah, we had a good
Absolutely.
time. We did like a watch party last night, which was fun since we couldn't go there in person anymore. So yeah, I'm just really thankful. So thank you so much.
That's awesome. We've known each other for a while since the Dow Tata days, and
Yeah, I know.
you are blossoming.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that totally.
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are, introduce yourself to people who don't know you, and then we'll get started with the Q&As.
Okay. Brandon Lewis. I consider myself the best of both worlds. I'm half Flint, half Midland. So I like to say I've seen it all and I've been around it all.
Yeah.
Um, Married my high school sweetheart. I have two boys, an 11-year, a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old. Next month they'll be 11 and 6.
Oh wow.
I do a lot of coaching. I'm a realtor at Air Reinhardt Realtors. Been doing that for this year will be 7 years. So
Oh wow. Awesome.
um, I I know, right? Time flies when you're having fun. But
That's what
uh,
they say.
I don't know. That's me in a nutshell, I guess. Sports fanatic, just a dude who wears bow ties. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. No. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Your boys are getting so big so quick, and I didn't realize their birthdays are in the same month.
Yes, they're 2 days apart.
Oh
So Jackson's is
wow.
the 27th and Isaiah's is the 29th. He's the leap year baby. So
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. That's pretty
it makes
cool.
for a very strenuous weekend of birthday parties. That's for
Well,
sure.
especially, I mean, if you celebrate Christmas and then you just had Christmas and then you have birthdays, two birthdays a month later, that's got to be fun.
I'll be looking forward to March. Put it that way.
I know, I know, I know. Oh, that's hilarious. Well, let's get started with the Q&As. My first question for you is, what's something you wish you would have known at the beginning of your career?
Ah, that's a very good question. I think as time goes on, that answer changes multiple
Sure,
times. I think
sure.
the biggest thing was when going into real estate, I think everyone has the same idea. I like to talk and I know people, right? Okay, that's all the realtors. What else you got? And I think it ended up being more of not just knowing people, but the relationships you have with people.
Mm,
I never went into sales to be a salesman. I never liked those people, if I
yeah,
may say myself.
yeah.
So for me, it was more about cultivating relationships, just straight organic relationships. And I know a decent amount of people know me from social media and things like that. But even with those were a lot of DM conversations. Those were, you're actually watching people grow, watch their kids grow. I've watched your kids go from Midland High to college and like all of these things. So to an extent, you become, I guess, a part of people, to an extent. And for me, it was more about cultivating those relationships, not just selling people, but being a talking point. Hey, if you got a question, sure. Hey, you're into this. Hey, you might want to check this out. Hey, I saw this. It's kind of being a connector or a plug, if you will, besides just real estate. It wasn't all about the sell. And I've come to conclusion the people that I don't sell are my hardest advocates. They're just like,
Mhm.
no, I like Brandon. Brandon's cool. You got to talk to B. And that's it. And I've never said anything to them about real estate at all. So
No,
I
I
think
think
that would
that's
be my
important.
biggest thing. You kind of go into it, 100 miles and running, and especially with real estate, it's kind of one of those you only eat what you kill type situation. And like I said, I got two boys that they got to eat. So,
Yeah.
but just cultivating those relationships.
No, I like that because that's really important. And as you said, people don't think about that part, but when you do have those relationships already established, when it comes time for, oh, I'm ready to buy a house, or a friend says, hey, I'm ready to look at this, your name will come up because, as you said, you form that connection already outside of your practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great thing. So my next question for you is, what's one thing you would tell your younger self? What would you tell young Brandon?
Shut your mouth.
Probably me too.
Shut your mouth. Um, my mom's probably get mad at me for this, but one of the greatest lessons my mother ever taught me was the moment you learn to shut up, the better your life will be.
Mhm.
And I think that would probably be the one. I think the way I grew up in the time period of the 90s, especially being one of only Black people in Midland, I felt I needed to chime in and say what Brandon thought or what Brandon felt or how I didn't like this or like that. And a lot of it was unnecessary or unneeded. It was going to be what it was going to be even after I said my piece. Um, I understand where it came from or where
Sure,
it came from.
sure.
Um, it's a very thin line because I think it's something I want to instill in my children. I'd rather have you have to figure out how to dial it back than have to figure out how to put it in you.
Right.
But I would probably say, hey, everything doesn't have to be war. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's not a battle.
Yeah. It's interesting you said it. I was speaking to a young lady that was at the gathering yesterday, and she's a senior at Northwood. And she talked about how she grew up in Chicago and how at the schools there, it was predominantly Black. And every once in a while you may see a speckled in white or Hispanic person, but predominantly where she went to school was Black. And she said that she purposely, once she found out about Northwood, came to Northwood because she wanted to stand out, because there she would just be another Black student, just kind of blended with
Right.
everyone else. And I say that to say, I know for me, when I first moved here, oftentimes I would say a lot. And I think some of that came from, I don't even know if I want to use the word insecurities, but just like trying to see where you belong. And I think there's like a certain type of anxiety or angst that comes with that when you are still trying to see like, where's my fit here? And I think
Absolutely.
sometimes you just try to you start talking, and it's like this weird, almost like nervous response that really is unnecessary. So I appreciate what you said about how as you grow, we realize that you don't always have to be the loudest person in the room. You don't always have to have something to say.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think it ends up being twofold. It's definitely what you said. I think there's a maturation process of trying to figure out you, but I think there's also a culture side,
Yes.
just from being my wife, which I mean, not
Yeah.
everyone else. She is white.
Yeah.
When the crew gets together, we a little loud. We
We
laugh
like
and we
naturally. Yeah.
so sometimes what seems to be aggression or that's not what I meant. I was just,
I'm
we're
just
just
loud.
I'm
Because you
sorry.
because you learn to be loud too, because everybody is loud, so you have to talk louder to be able to be heard. Everybody's talking and laughing, so it is a cultural thing for sure. And that was one thing.
100%.
Yeah, when we first moved here, the boys were like, I mean, Baron was 4, so they were real little, and they went to Adams Elementary, and it was so funny that I would always get these write ups for them about how they were so loud, and the words that were used were very descriptive, right? About being like rambunctious, and I'm like, and to me, I didn't see the issue because that just was the culture from where we came from, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, so it was really interesting to try to help them navigate and assimilate to a new environment that can misunderstand their just natural ways of being.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. So the next question is, share a moment that changed you in some way.
This one goes to my son Jaxson Lewis. I had Jaxson when I was 29. So let's just say my 20s were a blur. Brandon was having a whole lot of fun. And I'm an only child. My 20s was completely about Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon's happiness, Brandon's joy, what Brandon seems to be funny. And then, my now wife, when Kate told me, it was definitely a shock.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think those moments really helped me to take a step back and kind of go, okay, what are we doing moving forward?
Yeah,
This person did not ask to be here.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I know the relationship that I had with my father, great guy, uh, uh, not the most responsible man in the world.
yeah, yeah.
But it was one of those things where it was like, okay, I want to change some things in my life.
Sure.
So that the moment she told me, it was, I lived in Flint at the time. I moved up here. I was definitely one of those Midland kids who, walked across the stage and said, never.
Right. So
I
you,
ain't
so
ever.
because you went to school here, right? High school,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Yep,
So
I
and
went to
then
Midland
you,
High.
oh, and then you moved back to Flint.
I moved everywhere on the planet. I was in
Okay.
LA. I was in Miami.
Oh,
I was in me and Kate were in Chicago. I was back
oh,
in Flint at the time when we found out about Jackson. But
okay. I didn't know
yeah,
that. So
so
okay, thanks. All right.
yeah, we were all over everywhere. But yeah, it was just one of those moments where I had some very good people around me too.
Yeah.
And actually, Nikki Myers, her dad, OG
Oh,
Myers,
gee,
I always
yes,
have this
yes.
this thing in my head. He was like, "Man, you got to learn how to eat crow." I'm like, "Eat crow,"
Mm,
and he like, you the breadwinner. You take care of your woman, take care of your kid, and it's those little moments that kind of stick with you where it goes, all right, I'm gonna be here for this kid, and I'll tell him all the time. I go, I don't know if I'm doing it right. I'm out
yeah,
here waking up in the morning. I'm rolling the dice, bro.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
did. My dad wasn't in the house, so I always tell him, I'm like, I don't know what 6 o'clock dinners look like. I don't
yeah.
know what but I take little bits and pieces from great men that I know or TV shows. I'm definitely in
Yeah.
there. I probably shouldn't say the name Cliff Huxtable, but I've taken little things from
But
him and
but you know what? Just paying homage to the storytelling and the example that was shown, despite the personal person and what they did for a lot of us our age. I mean, that was an example that we were able to see, and we got to see a representation, on TV, and sit down and see a normal, healthy, right family. I mean, but
one
yeah.
hundred 100%.
So
So
I'm gonna
it
always pay
just
homage to that part of it. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely, yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's but that's everybody, right? There's
yeah.
what's there's good and bad in all of it, and there's lessons to be taken, either way, you know.
It is for
So
sure. For sure, for sure. And I like what you said about OG too, and like, people that set those examples, because not only was he telling you that, he lived it. I mean, you were able to see him doing that in the flesh. And I think that's so important to have those type of examples where we're able to see them actually do it and not just talk about it,
100%, and I guarantee you, he doesn't remember it at all. It was just one of
But
those moments,
yes,
where he said something, and I always tell people, and I try to remind myself, speak into people. You
yeah,
never know how important that statement, that hug, that high five, that smile, that compliment could be to somebody. So
it's the
yeah,
truth.
definitely shout out to OG.
Yes, no, he's a great guy. I mean, I was just with his wife last night. It's really interesting too, what you said about those small interactions that people, like you said, they've gone on with their life. They didn't even think about that again. And it really resonates with you, and it speaks life into you in ways that they would have never even imagined that it would. So it is important to sow into people, speak into people, and be positive. If they none of us have it all right. We're all learning, parents, siblings, co-work. We don't know what we're doing out here. We're trying our best. We are trying our best, because you really don't have a book to follow. So we just, learn lessons, and
Absolutely.
yeah, and
like
grow from it.
like
So
like you just said, that's probably one of the greatest lessons I've learned. You find out, you be like, oh, y'all don't know what y'all doing either.
exactly,
I wish
exactly,
I wish somebody had told me, because I'm sitting over here insecure, not saying nothing. you
exactly.
know.
We all trying to figure. When I talk with kids, when I go to classrooms, talk to children, I always tell them, don't think that us adults know what we're doing. We don't. We're just trying to give you the small lessons that we've learned along the way, but we're still trying to figure it out. When I talk about bullying or self-hate and trying to find self-awareness. Say, adults, we're still doing it. And young bullies grow up to be big bullies. So, I mean, we're all
100%.
still learning. We're all still learning here. Oh, that's for sure. Because I tell you, I know for sure. I just show up every day and say, "Woo, all right, today's a new day. Let's get it."
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so my next question for you is, what's the lesson you learned that you didn't understand at the time, but you do now?
What's a lesson that I didn't understand at the time, but I do now? Doo, 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 doo. Yeah, I think you got the talkative guy stumped with that one. Let's see.
Yeah, this is one of those reflection questions. It's always
There.
so deep to me because there's things, especially like as children or like when you were a teenager or even like you said in your 20s, that you look back now and you're like, wait a minute, that's what that meant.
Okay. I think this is right along those lines. The transformation between Flint and Midland.
Mhm.
So my mom, shout out to her, great lady, worked really hard, gave us a great life. She owned her own home. We were in Flint numbers, well to do, high middle class, I guess you would consider us.
Sure.
Um, and it was always one of those things where my mom always said, we don't talk down on people. You don't understand, everyone's situation and everyone's struggle. And that's kind of
Yeah.
something that I took with me. Um, Easier said and done when you're on the high side. Then we
Right.
moved to Midland. And
Yeah.
I found out we didn't have money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know
Mhm.
but it was that same, I got to see the other side of the coin of what she was speaking about. We were
Right.
still good people,
Right.
we were still hardworking, we still kept a nice house and did all these things. So which is something I want to instill in both of my boys. I think sometimes that Midland lifestyle kind of you start feeling a little swaggy because you have this and have that, or your friend goes here and there and all of these things.
Yeah.
I know a few years back, that's when we did Jaxson Socktober,
Yeah.
made him. I'm like, hey, you got to get out here and help the less fortunate. It's
Yeah.
great that we have, and I am super grateful and thankful
Sure.
to God and all the people who have helped me in my career and in our life. But that idea of giving back and not knowing, I guess, when the tide's going to change. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Well,
Because
and we
one day
saw
you're
that.
up.
But we saw that with the flood, right? There were a lot of people when we had the flood. What was that? 2020, right? When we had the
Yes,
was
ma'am.
that 20? Yeah. And and we saw people who had a lot. They had a lot, and were I guess like kind of some of the elite of Midland, quote unquote, and they got to see the difference on how quick life can change, right? And I'm not celebrating it, but I'm just saying
Huh.
that I remember just thinking like, wow, that's got to be a humbling experience and an eye opener to say how quickly things can change for anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's the thing for anyone.
yeah,
I mean, I think last time I looked at numbers of most Americans can't take I think it was like a $1,500 hit. So like
yeah,
if a carburetor goes out or if your furnace goes out, that bankrupts a lot of people. And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
being
yeah,
grateful and thankful for every single thing, the smallest of things, definitely means something. And just know, even when you're on the outs or whatever it
sure,
is, those things, there's still light at the end of the tunnel. That
yeah.
as they say, if God gives you another 24, that means He ain't done with you yet. So
Exactly, exactly. It's interesting when I first moved here from Cincinnati because I too came from like inner city, but I grew up pretty middle class.
right,
My mom had a decent job, and so we didn't really want for a lot, right? And
right,
but I also was always intertwined with all type of people, right? So and when I first moved here, it was different, and I was a single mother of four children, four boys, and I like to add that because they eat. a little bit differently than girls do.
Thanks.
And so it was really interesting because back home, people would go like on spring break and it would be, like Six Flags or, so, and here people like, oh, we're going to Italy for spring break. And it's like, oh, okay.
So it's funny you say that. My first year here, I'm in 5th grade when I moved here.
Yeah.
And spring break, I went to my grandma's house in Flint because my mom had to work.
Right.
Like
Right.
that was the break, and everyone's talking about they're going to Florida and Key West. And there was one kid that was going to Europe. I'm like, people don't go to now, mind you, I'm 4 or 5 months out,
Right. Right.
removed from Flint. So I'm like, Europe, bro, you ain't nobody going to know Europe.
Right. No, it's the truth. It's the truth.
Europe?
No, it was so interesting. Then, so being that parent that could barely at that time take my kids to Detroit to go to the museum. Like I could barely get that money together at that time, right? And so, and they're coming home telling me their friends are going to, Switzerland. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, what is happening? So then you have that almost like this societal pressure, right? Within the culture that you're in, that you don't measure up or you aren't, on the same level, and you almost feel bad to your kids. Like, I'm sorry, we gonna try to make it to Detroit.
It's very two-folded. I
Yeah.
always tell people there's a point when I first got here where it was, man, we ain't got it like that. You know what I mean? And then there's another side where my eyes were open to possibilities of what's possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I know this is the second time I'm talking about the Myers, but me and Nikki Myers are super best friends.
Yeah.
And we've had that conversation of, you talk to other people. I've been around certain people and certain things growing up. So there's certain things that just don't, I don't, oh my goodness. You know what I mean? Like I would have earlier because I have been around, either people with money or we have been blessed to go to a few places and see some things, or just being around people, being close to people who have done it. So you go, oh, okay, I can do that too.
Of course. Yeah.
There's Mr. Holloman and Mr. Wood, and I grew up with all of these, very strong Black figures around here. So I'm like, okay, I didn't have the full connection with them because I was God was still working on me, but still just being there and knowing, okay, that's possible, that's feasible.
Right, exactly. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. That's one thing that I will say that I've taken away from this environment is that once you start seeing people do it as an everyday thing, like this is just what we do, right? It's like, oh, then I could do that. And I think that, I mean, that's something that's needed in a lot of, areas that we know and communities that we know that never see people even leave their city. Like they literally don't leave a city. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I tell my grandmother all the time, I go, we can take the plastic off the couch. I promise you. I promise you.
It's gonna
God
be okay.
will provide you another couch in that 20 to 30 year span. Okay. I promise you. So I think it also gave me the, because it kind of come with a scarcity mindset, at certain times. And, after a while, you start seeing things, you go, okay, the world is big. The possibilities are endless. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. And see, I'm one of those kind of people that when I see someone else do it, especially somebody that's close to me, like in my tribe, in my circle, it's like I did it. I'm like, oh, we all won today, and it's just a motivating. Yeah. You got to congratulate people and just be happy for them and just believe that when it's your time will present itself. You continue on. So no, I totally agree with you. Yeah. And I like how you captured that part because it is beautiful to see that transformation that takes place within you where it's almost like an envious part where it's like, why can't I do that? And then it grows into a, oh wow, they did it, that means I can too. And you change the perspective for sure. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I agree. So the last question for you is, if you had some words of encouragement to leave with us, what would they be?
As you say words, I'd say words have power.
Yeah.
Speak. I just saw on Twitter they were doing tweet your manifestation. So they had all of these athletes and celebrities that said, 10, 15, 20 years ago, hey, I think it was like Demi Lovato. She said she was going to sing at the Super Bowl. And I think it was like 11 years later, she sang at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Your words have power. Your beliefs have power. Speak that. Even if you have to, I always say I don't have a lot of fans on Twitter, so I'll be tweeting myself, be talking to me. But it's a place to push it out into the universe, even if you have to write it to yourself and that be your own little goal. Because, I think it was Steve Harvey that said, don't tell small-minded people your big dreams. They can't handle it. So speak it to yourself, encourage yourself of what you're going to be, of what you're going to do, what you're going to have. Speaking to your children, your words have power.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And there's certain things that I don't share because, again, like what you said, and I saw when Steve said that, but it's the truth, because some people are very small-minded and they have some haterade, right? They be drinking that haterade. So some people will they'll try to sow out negativity, and some people do it subconsciously where they just negative, or they don't believe in stuff, right? So they put limitations on you because they have limitations for themselves. So some people I don't share with stuff, but I do also believe in sometimes publicly putting out my manifestations, because I believe that it's like an accountability thing where once I've said it and I know other people know that I'm saying this, I'm going to work on this because it's going to happen. And I have to believe that.
You got to. And that's what it is. And I think sometimes even because I have to watch myself sometimes with the kids, and I've gotten better as the years gone on. They'll say something, you go, well, shut your mouth, Brandon. Maybe God has that for him. Just because I can't see it, just because, maybe I can't do that doesn't mean he can't. I don't know what the next, 10, 15 years of life is going to be. I don't know what technology is going to be. I don't know, what he's capable of being and or doing. Shut your mouth. Let him grow.
Yeah. And, and it's okay to dream. That's the beauty of children. Children have such imagination, and they just, they see things differently, because for us, a lot of times we've been so tainted by limitations and boxes, right? That we stop dreaming. Yes. And we just stop dreaming. So when children dream, I'm like, dream, baby. Like, yes. I'm like, oh, you gonna be an elephant? Okay, yay. We're gonna be, whatever you believe, let it be, at that moment, because they'll find their way for sure. But no, I think that's a beautiful thing about children, and we as adults have to try to kind of get back to that, that idea of just dreaming. Yeah, no matter what.
That's exactly what it is. I think we have to get back. I think we done got our feelings hurt a time or two. So we like, all right, if I just stay in this box, it won't hurt so bad. But I mean, God's got more for you, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Got to keep dreaming. Always dream. Well, thank you so much, Brandon. I truly appreciate you for being here today and answering these questions. You really shared a lot that I truly appreciate. And this kind of stuff is just so important to share ideas, because with everyone with this series, I've pretty much asked almost the same questions, right? And I did that intentionally because I think it's so beautiful how the same question can vary and be so different amongst us because of our experiences, our culture, or what we've learned and how we've grown. So I appreciate you for taking this time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, we will be in touch, and I will let you know when it's time for this to air.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right. Take care.